Freddy and Quentin are dead last and aren't ever getting any skins. But before we get into the specifics of why that is, let's get something out of the way. It's important to remember that copyright law is tricky and complicated. So for this list where I'll rank every single license chapter based on how close their relationship with behavior is, I'll also be breaking down what we know about that relationship and how likely we are to get more content out of it. Now, I've done a lot of research into this, but it's worth mentioning that no one besides behavior and the respective license holder know the exact details of their agreement. There's no way to know exactly what goes on behind the scenes, so the best we could do is speculate based on how licensing agreements typically go and what's been said publicly by both parties. And even then, there's plenty of room for inconsistencies. For example, one company might be okay with both behavior's initial price offer and the revenue split they'll both get from it. They might even throw in more characters for skins to sweeten the deal because they genuinely want to make the collaboration happen. While another company might want more money right off the bat and a bigger split share, with a further away expiration date to secure the deal for longer. They're also more guarded and concerned over protecting their brand image, so they'll only offer the essentials of their characters with no modifications at all. That theoretically could be what happened with Nightmare on Elm Street. Based on the 2010 film instead of the original, this chapter brings with it, alongside the Springwood map, Freddy Krueger and Quentin Smith, a character made solely for the reboot film. With them comes a whopping 0 additional skins, with the exception of the bloody prestige alternatives that every character gets. Aside from them having the least amount of cosmetics in the game, Quentin also kinda looked a little funky at the start, so much so that his actor, Kyle Gallner, tweeted about it. This caused game lead Matthew Cote to reach out to try to secure likeness rights. After that, Quentin's in-game model got a noticeable visual upgrade. That was actually nice, but many years later, both characters have still not gotten any form of customization. I'm sure that behavior would love to give them more, but it's unfortunately just not up to them. Warner Brother and New Line Cinema only allowed them to use the remake with no changes. Eventually, the Wes Craven estate won back the US rights to the franchise, while New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers retain the international rights. Behavior is a Canadian company, so that unfortunately could fall under their jurisdiction. That would make sense considering that years later, there's still no in-game additions to these characters since this news. However, the deal with behavior could have just been transferred over and honored by the Wes Craven estate until it expires, leaving it up to them to renew it, but there's just no way of knowing for sure. That's really unfortunate because fans want more. In fact, getting the original Freddy, Robert Englund, to reprise his role with full-on voice acting is a dream to many. But considering it's been years since the rights reverted and there hasn't been any solid plans for a continuation of the franchise, even with the prospect of Englund returning, the chances of new content in Dead by Daylight is incredibly low. The idea of the original Freddy, alongside any skins for that matter, in the immediate future will unfortunately just remain a dream for now. Up next, but not by that much really, is Hellraiser. While we didn't get a survivor for this one, we did get Pinhead alongside his original actor, Doug Bradley, doing voiceover work for him. Pinhead also released with 2 pretty cool skins, one of them being a different character with special sounds. Although we didn't get a map, there was allegedly one in the works for the chapter, but it was scrapped for being too sexual. But even without that map, this could have been a really strong chapter moving forward if only its legacy wasn't tainted by its NFT launch. There's a good chance that the NFT tie-in that caused players to speak out in outrage was a part of Behavior's licensing deal with Park Avenue Entertainment, who held the Hellraiser rights at the time, as is implied in their tweet explaining that the license holders can use the models for whatever they want, as it's their right to do so since it's their characters. This is why it's unlikely we'll see any more skins soon. However, there is a best case scenario here. Clive Barker, the writer and director of the original Hellraiser movie, actually got the US franchise rights back only a few months after this DLC release. Theoretically, it is possible, given the right circumstances, when the license needs to be renewed, it'll be renewed through Clive Barker. Of course, that's speculative, but if that's the case, and he can ensure that they won't be used for NFTs or anything like that, there's a chance we could see them rekindle this partnership with a chance for more content from the franchise. By the way, it'd be really cool if you follow me on Twitch. I stream every single Monday and Friday at 7 PM CT, so go on over if you want to chat or maybe even play DBD with us. Links down in the description. Thanks in advance. See you there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is another chapter where we only got a killer in Leatherface. He's gotten a few skins since release, but that's about it. Not much else has been done with him, and so it didn't take much for people to think that he was leaving. When alternative names were added to Bubba's perks in an early 2023 PTB, there was a lot of speculation that the licensing was expiring and he'd meet the same fate as Stranger Things did at the time. This would fall in line with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that was set to release later in the year. Lots of people understandably thought that maybe the right holders, Vortex Inc., didn't want Bubba in a competitor's game when he had his own coming out. Although all of this turned out to not be true, with Behavior shooting down the rumor with a tweet. So he's here to stay, at least for now. But does that mean we could expect more Bubba cosmetics? I personally wouldn't hold my breath for that, considering it's been more than 2 years since he got his last one, unfortunately. Moving on, Left 4 Dead is in a really unique spot. First of all, Valve is very friendly with people that want to use their IPs. Black Mesa is a Half-Life remake started by an indie studio. Along the way though, they got Valve's blessings for the project to be sold commercially, and even considers it to be a full-on Half-Life franchise game. With all that being said, it's no surprise that the condition for Bill being added into Dead by Daylight is that he had to be a free character. That goes for his cosmetics as well, with the Christmas skin being available right away and his other outfit only being available with Eerie shards. No real money gets involved here on the player's end. That's really nice of them, but that's also probably why we're not going to get anything more from Left 4 Dead. I imagine that Valve helped foot a lot of the bill to get the character and those cosmetics created, but that's not profitable for Behavior. Ever since that initial deal with Valve was struck, Behavior hasn't made any money from commercial sales regarding Bill. So unless Valve wants to pay for something else to be made, we're probably not going to see Behavior go out of their way to make something that's not going to bring them any revenue. Up next is Ash vs. Evil Dead, which also only has a single survivor in Ash Williams, but he has various skins from the show available. Also, his original actor, Bruce Campbell, does the lobby voice lines for him. In terms of the Evil Dead rights, from what I've seen, they're all over the place based on each iteration of the franchise, and that could be a reason why we only have Ash from the TV series. For this version, it seems that his right holders are, alongside the Starz TV network, Bruce Campbell, director Sam Raimi, and producer Rob Tapert. They all love the character of Ash Williams, and it shows with how many different skins they've allowed fans to use. But unfortunately, since most of his skins are from a now cancelled TV series, it doesn't seem likely that we'll get more unless they're original skins, or less likely, they could get the rights to film Ash. Halloween was DBD's first ever licensed chapter. Not only that, but it also came out mere months after the game was released. That's insane for an indie game to pull out such iconic characters so early on. That indicates that 1. Behavior already had strong connections from the start, and 2. The Halloween license holder, Trancast International Films, had a tremendous amount of trust in Behavior to do right by their characters. We got Myers and Laurie, with both characters getting new stuff in the Haddonfield Nights collection years later in 2019. Although they couldn't get the likeness rights for Laurie's actress, Jamie Lee Curtis, they instead used her appearance from the Halloween comics. We also got the Haddonfield map, and there was actually a second map that was in development during patch 1.3.1, but it was never released. As for future content, fans have wanted the 2018 version of these characters for a while now. Behavior currently only has the rights to the first film. While Trancast did produce those newer films, so did Blumhouse Productions. Behavior would need them to also agree to use those versions. Blumhouse is coincidentally producing the DVD movies, so their relationship is already pretty strong. However, nothing new has been added since 2019, so more content isn't likely if it's Trancast that has the final say on that. On to Saw. On top of the Gideon Meat Plant map, we got Amanda Young as Pig alongside Detective Tapp, both of which have gotten multiple skins since their release. There was even, for the first time ever, a whole tome dedicated to a franchise. That included voiceover work from the original voice of Jigsaw, Tobin Bell, for a trailer. It sure seems that Lionsgate and Behavior are close. There was even speculation recently about the 30th chapter being Saw related, because Behavior tweeted out some cryptic things about Saw a few days before the announcement. But that was probably to jump on the Saw trend since the newest movie had released around that time. But still, due to how willing Lionsgate has been to work with Behavior, I'm sure we could expect more stuff from them. If I had made this video a month ago, Stranger Things would have been last on this list, but we are so back! With this chapter, we got a whole map, killer, and 2 survivors that have the likeness of their actors. BHVR and Netflix were on such good terms that Netflix actually gave them the 3D demo model they used for the show to make it easier for BHVR to model him. Aside from the characters getting a bunch of cool looking skins, one of them being a skin that turns them into Jonathan Byers, a different Stranger Things character, Demo has cosmetics that are completely new and unique to the game. Everything was good, up until it wasn't. That's when Netflix chose to do a 180 and not renew the license. Probably because they wanted to focus on their own gaming platform with their own properties. They wanted exclusivity. The map was put offline and the characters and their skins were no longer able to be purchased. Fans were heartbroken to see these characters go, and newer players like myself at the time didn't really get a chance to do more with them. Fortunately, after much anticipation, it was announced on the recent Stranger Things Day that the chapter is effective immediately back in Dead by Daylight. During this, both the DBD and Stranger Things Twitter accounts expressed joy in working together again. Players have long awaited this return, and many are hopeful that we'll one day get a second Stranger Things chapter, considering that so much has happened in the show since the first one. It was the fans that helped make this return by constantly expressing their love and support for the franchise. The chances of more cosmetics and maybe even another chapter is decently high. Yes, Netflix leaving put a huge strain on their relationship with BHVR. This would be a lot higher on this list if it weren't for that. They still have a way to go to fully repair that relationship, and more content would be the way to go for that. So just keep an eye out for that blighted demo skin, I'm calling it right now. Moving on to a very unique case in Nicolas Cage, we have him as a survivor. Not him in a role, but rather just him. He's the license himself. I remember seeing the leak for this, and I, much like everyone else, thought it was a high quality fake. But here we are. In the lore, he was playing Talbot Grimes, aka Blight, and reenacting the same scenario where he got taken by the entity. Cage voices himself and is the first survivor to have voice lines in the middle of a match, with a whopping 185 lines of dialogue. We also have a few decent skins for him, alongside 2 sets being in a rift soon after his release. This is probably the easiest license for BHVR to manage, considering it's just one person that has to sign off on any ideas BHVR might have, so I feel confident in betting we'll get more from him later on. For Ringu, we got Sadako as killer and Yoichi Asakawa as survivor. BHVR couldn't get the likeness rights to the 2 main characters in the first Ringu movie, so they were allowed to use a grown-up Yoichi who was a child in the film. They were also given permission to create completely new lore for Yoichi as well, so they made him a scientist that specializes in the ocean because he wanted to find Sadako. We didn't get a map for them, but there were alleged plans for one that got scrapped along the way. They've gotten a handful of skins since release, with one of them being a blighted Sadako. Spoiler alert for the rest of the video, all of the other licensed killers that have this skin are going to be at the top of the list, considering that they let BHVR modify them specifically for the game. It's an indication of how friendly the 2 parties are. As a result, I'd expect more skins from this partnership, probably more so for Yoichi because they have more freedom with him, considering this aged up character only exists here. The Ghostface license is another unique and interesting case. There's no survivor or map, it's just Ghostface. The reason for that is that BHVR didn't get the rights to the Scream franchise and instead got the rights to the Ghostface mask. Apparently, they were in talks to get the first Scream's Ghostface alongside other characters, but it didn't work out. This is probably because they'd have to get and pay for 2 different licenses, one for the film and one for the mask, as the films also have to get the rights from Funworld, the company behind the masks. Because of that, BHVR had to come up with a completely new original character to don the iconic costume. Because the rights that they got are simpler, they've been able to get lots of different skins and masks for the game, even having a rift focusing on him. Also, of course, there's the blighted skin. As a result, it's very safe to assume that we'll get more masks in the future based on how close their relationship seems to be. While that's nice and all, lots of people want Scream characters too. As of now, that's not very likely considering that's a whole different license that they'll have to go after again. But it's not impossible. If there's another movie coming out and they need promo for it and Funworld is okay with it, who knows? We'll just have to cross our fingers, huff that copium, and hope for the best. Silent Hill has brought us the Midwich map alongside Pyramid Head and Cheryl Mason. Cheryl specifically has gotten many skins, with 4 of them turning her into completely different Silent Hill characters. As for Pyramid Head, he notably has a blighted skin as well. Konami is currently developing multiple big Silent Hill games, the most notable ones being a remake and a completely new edition. They'll be releasing in the coming years after a long period of not doing much with their own license. Aside from pachinko machines, that is. Considering that both BHVR and Konami are game developers and understand that fans of their content will pay for it, the chances of us getting more from this franchise is really high, and I just got really depressed thinking about how we could have gotten a Silent Hills and DBD collaboration by now if that had worked out. I'm gonna need a moment.
Thousands of tears later.
Alien was one of the most demanded licenses of all time. We got a map, a xenomorph, and Ellen Ripley. Even though she does have voice lines, they're not from her original actress, Sigourney Weaver. They also weren't able to get the likeness rights to her either, as the model simply takes inspiration from her appearance. As for skins, both characters got a few cool ones since the skins originate from different films. But extra points are given here for having the sickest looking blighted skin in the entire game. With us getting so much at the start, that's a clear sign of a strong partnership, and it indicates that there will be more in store for us later on. At the time of this video, Child's Play is the latest license release. In fact, it's not even out yet while I'm saying this, but it's already had such a huge impact on the community. That says a lot considering there's no map or survivor. It's Chucky, but he's releasing with a Tiffany skin. On top of that, both characters have full-on voice acting by the original actors. Combined, they have over 300 voice lines. This is also the first killer to talk constantly throughout the match based on what's happening. Again, this video is made before his release, but we know he'll also be getting a 3rd skin at launch, and I'm willing to bet it'll be the iconic scarred Chucky that terrified kid me throughout my childhood. Aside from all that, this will also be the shortest killer ever. As a result, BHVR had to develop a decent camera system that would work best for their small stature. Before this, fans wanted Chucky, but people were concerned that he'd be impossible to implement because of his height. Just from playing him in the PTB alone, I could tell that BHVR really gave it their all in trying to make him work because they were excited about him too. Similar to the Alien chapter, we're off to a very strong start already. He's rumored to be getting a Christmas sweater, and even then, I still expect more, and I wouldn't be surprised if next year we got a blighted Chucky skin. And finally, at the top, 2 chapters, each with a killer and 2 survivors with lobby voice lines, is Resident Evil. And since their debut, they've gotten a ton of skins, like a crazy amount of skins. That includes a very special William Birkin skin for Blight, with new sounds and voice lines. Speaking of voice lines, Albert Wesker has that type of voice work too. As for Nemesis, Capcom gave BHVR the official Nemesis 3D model to help import him into the game. They probably also helped them out in other ways too, considering how close the RPD map was to the original. Although, a little too close, am I right? Also, both of the killers have a blighted skin. It's pretty obvious that BHVR has a similar relationship with Capcom like they do with Konami, but times 10. As I briefly touched on earlier, companies that hold the rights to film characters can be very complicated to work with, and it's probably often BHVR that has to convince them to work with them. And even when they do agree, they could hold their characters on a short leash and not let BHVR do much with them. But Capcom's a video game company. They know what fans want, and they know that a strong partnership like this works well for everyone, for both companies and fans. It's a win-win-win scenario. So I definitely expect more collaborations with them in the future. And this might be me huffing that copium, but if we could get the Resident Evil voice actors to come back for full-on in-game voice acting like Chucky has, please.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
But anyway, BHVR has fallen in favor with more and more companies over time. This is because they've proven they can take care of others' licenses. That could be why the licenses at the top of this list are fairly new chapters. Their reach for collaboration is what makes DBD so unique, and more will definitely be on the way. Who knows what they're working on right now? I'm just really excited to see what they have in store for us. But what do you guys think? Who do you still want to see in DBD? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.